Vinay Rai Tulsi Vyai Priyayai Keshavashacha Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satyava Choy Namo Namaha. Jai Tulsi Maharani.
Jai.
Okay. All right. Okay. Go. All right. Jaya Radha Madhuva Kunya Bihari
Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari
Radha Madhuva Kunya Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari
Gopidana Malaba Giri Varadare
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvardhari
Gopidana Malaba Giri Varadare
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvardhari
Sunanana Braja Janagonjana Sunanana Braja Janagonjana Yamuna Tera Panachore Yamuna Tera Panachore Jayuranu Matva Punya Vihari Jayuranu Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Paravidikacharya All Sutera Satishi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Marashila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananda Goti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Shai Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturadam Ki Jai Jagadata Swami Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shunyavani Pasyatya Jayatarani. So today we are continuing with our discussion of Lord Rama's pastimes, and we're going to be reading from the 9th canto, 10th chapter, text 4 today of the Srimad Bhagavatam about Lord Rama, and then we're going to continue with our discussion of the different characters that are there in the Ramayana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Can I also have a little water here? Just little warm, not too warm. All right. Okay. This is a little difficult. Actually, we'll do the words first just to get it done. Gurvarte
Guruvate
Shakta Rajo
Rajo
Vyacharad
Yacharat
Anuvanam
Anuvanam
Padma
Padma
Padvyam
Padmam
Priyaya
Priyaya
Pani
Hari
Sparshakshamabhyam
Parsha Akshasamyam
Mrijita
Yujita
Pata Rujo Yo Harindranujabhyam
Harindranujabhyam
Vairupyach
Vairupyach
Churpanakya
Chupanakya
Priya
Priya
Praha
Priyaha
Rusharupata
Visharupata
Bru
Bru
Vishrimba
Vijumba
Thrastabdir Bada
Dava
Setu
Setu
Kala
Kala
Dava
Dava
Dahana
Dana
Koshalendro
Koshalendra
Avatan
Avata
Na.
Na
Okay, let's see if I got the melody right. Gu Varta Chatra Rajo Vyacharat Anuvanam Padma Padbyam Priya.
Guru Artha Tattva Rajo Vicharat Anuvam Padam Padhaya Priya.
It's going to be hard for everybody, including me. Panis Pashakshabhyam Rijata Patta Rujoyo Harindranujabhyam.
Vanispasak sambhayam mirchat partha urjoyo har indriya jabhayam.
Vairupyaschurpanakya priya viraha rushor pita bru vijimba.
Vayo puchupnakya priya viraha rusopita bru vrijama.
Trastad birbhadasetu kaladava dahana koshalendro vatana.
Nasa vidhir pada setu kala dova tama koshalya vatana.
It's a difficult verse.
Yeah.
Guru Varti Chattarajo Vyacharad Anuvanam Padma Padvyam Priya.
Guru Tattva Virachat Anupa Padam Padmaya Priya.
Pani Sparshat Kap Pani Sparshak Shamabhyam Rija Mrijita Patarujo Yo Harendranurjabhyam.
Artharujoyo Harindranujabhayam.
Vairupyaschurpanakya priya viraha ushaparopita bru vijimba.
Vairupyacha chanupakshaya priya virarushapita bru vrijabham.
Trastad bir Trastad dir badasitu kaladava tahana koshalendro vatana.
Tarasdhir badha setu kala dava dahana kalosa indravarna.
We'll do one more time. We won't do it responsibly after this. Gurvarti Chattarajo Vyacharadnanu Vanam Padma Padvyam Priyaya.
Guru Artha Takya Vyajo Vyachat Anuvam Padam Padmaya Priya.
Pani Sparshakshamabhyam Jita Patakrujo Yo Harendranujabhyam.
Anis Pasakya Sambhayam Vijat Partha Rujoyo Arindriyanujabhayo.
Vairupyachurpanakya priyak viraha rusharopita bru vijimba.
Vayu Priya Viraru Saropita Biro Vrijabhayam.
Trastabdir Vadasetu Kaladava Dahana Koshalendro Vatana.
Vivada Setu Kala Davadana Kaloshena.
Okay, we'll just do the word by word synonyms. It'll be excruciating if everybody has to do this. Guru Arte,
Guru Arte,
for the sake of keeping the promise of his father.
for the sake of keeping the promise of his father.
Jaktaraja,
Taktaraja,
giving up the position of king.
giving up the position of king.
Vyatcharat,
Vyacharat,
wandered.
wandered.
Anuvanam,
Anuvanam,
from one forest to another. Padma Padvyam,
Padmapadhyam,
by his two lotus feet. Priyaya,
Priyaya,
with his very dear wife, Mother Sita. Panisparsha Akshamabhyam,
Panisparsha Akshasam,
which were so delicate,
so delicate,
they were unable to bear even the touch.
that were unable to bear even the touch.
Sita's palm.
of Sita's palm.
Mrijapataruja,
Mridapataruja,
whose fatigue due to walking
whose fatigue due to walking
on the street was diminished.
on the street was diminished.
Ya,
Ya,
the Lord who?
The Lord who,
Harindra Anujabhyam,
Jabhyam,
accompanied by the king of the monkeys, Hanuman,
accompanied by the king of monkeys Hanuman
and his younger brother, Lakshmana.
and his brother Lakshmana.
Vairupyat,
Vairupyat,
because of being disfigured.
because of being disfigured,
Surpanakya, of the Rakshasi demoness named Surpanaka.
of the Rakshasi demons named Surpanaka.
Priyaviraha, being aggrieved by separation
By agreed by separation
from his very dear wife.
from his very dear wife.
Arusha Aropata Bru Vijimba,
Rusa Arupata Bru Vijimha,
by flickering of his raised eyebrows in anger.
by flicking of his eyes
Thrashta,
Rasta,
fearing.
hearing,
Abdi,
Abdi,
the ocean.
the ocean.
Vadasetu,
Setu,
one who constructed a bridge over the ocean.
one who constructed a bridge over the ocean.
Koladava Dahana, killer of envious persons like Ravana, like a fire devouring a forest. Koshala Indra, the king of Ayodhya. Avatat,
Avatat,
be pleased to protect. Na,
not
us. Okay. Translation. To keep the promise of his father intact, Lord Ramchandra immediately gave up the position of king and, accompanied by his wife, Mother Sita, wandered from one forest to another on his lotus feet, which were so delicate that they were unable to bear even the touch of Sita's palms. The Lord was also accompanied by Hanuman, or by another monkey, Sugriva, king of the monkeys, and by his own younger brother, Lord Lakshmana, both of whom gave him relief from the fatigue of wandering in the forest. Having cut off the nose and ears of Surpanaka, thus disfiguring her, the Lord was separated from Mother Sita. He therefore became angry, moving his eyebrows and thus frightening the ocean, who then allowed the Lord to construct a bridge to cross the ocean. Subsequently, the Lord entered the kingdom of Ravana to kill him, like a fire devouring a forest. May that Supreme Lord Ramachandra give us all protection. Phew. There's no purport to this particular text. It's the whole Ramayana.
yeah.
So, Om Ganan Timirandasha Gananjana Shlakaya Jakshuran Minitam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. So basically, that's the whole story. It's the end of class. Anyway, so we're not going to go through the whole story right now, and actually Srila Prabhupada didn't comment on this whole story here. So we're going to continue with the discussion of the characters in the Ramayana. So, because to tell the whole story would be like several classes right now. So, Om Gana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshura Meditam Yena Tasmai Shi Gurave Namaha. Okay, so we were talking about the characters in the Ramayana. Let's see, go back. We got up to Jambavan and Janaka we talked about, Jatayu we talked about, and all right, Kaikeyi we didn't get to. Right?
We didn't know Jatayu.
I thought we did Jatayu.
No, Janak, we just finished
Oh.
with Janak.
Oh, we just finished Janaka. Okay. So, all right, so we're at Jatayu J. Jatayu is an interesting personality because he was the friend of Dasharath. And he had a brother named Sampati, if you remember that correctly.
Mm.
And Sampati was older brother. And Sampati basically protected Jataya when Jataya was flying too close to the sun. And Sampati covered him with his wings. And Sampati's wings got burnt and he fell to the ground.
Mm.
And because of that, he basically couldn't move. He was stuck in southern India on a mountain. And tell the story of some. I don't know if Sampati is included in this list. No, he's not. I don't think he's included. Yeah, he is. Anyway, we can tell the story of both of them at the same time because they're very much connected. So Sampati fell to the ground, and he actually remained there, and he didn't have enough to eat. So once upon a time, as you know, Lord Ram, not Lord Ram, but the monkeys were looking for Sita Devi. They came to the shore of the ocean.
Mm.
And they had encountered a lot of difficulty getting there. They'd previously gone through a cave and were transported there to the shore of the ocean. And they were very disappointed that they had reached the end of their, what they thought was the end of their search, and they had not found Sita. So they didn't want to go back. And because they didn't want to go back, they thought, we don't have it. Actually, the reason they didn't want to go back is they were afraid of Sugriva. He would get very angry with them. So instead, they thought, let's just fast till death. Meantime, somebody's there, and somebody's seen all this delicious monkey food, monkeys that he could eat. He wasn't a vegetarian. Birds are not vegetarian. Neither is Garuda a vegetarian. So somebody was there and licking his lips, hope they die soon so I can eat them. Because vultures don't eat live animals. They wait until the animals die. Prabhupada said vultures generally fly very high, looking for dead bodies. In the same way, modern culture, is attempting to fly very high, but they're simply interested in dead bodies, enjoying bodies. Anyway, so then the monkeys, Hanuman and others, started to talk about the whole history of what happened previously, how Jatayu had been killed by Ravan. And as soon as Sampati heard that, what did Sampati do? He came down. You said you were talking about my brother. What's the story? And so they gradually related the story to Sampati. And Sampati said, actually, it was predicted that one day, I would help Lord Ram and I would help find Sita Devi, and then I would get my wings back. So his sages actually blessed him like that, that was his service. So then they said to him, can you tell us where Sita Devi is? So he used his eyes, like vultures, they can see like miles and miles and miles in the distance. And he looked, and he was able to focus and see that Sita Devi was under the Ashok tree. And he said, she's there. And it's about, according to the Valmiki Ramayana, it's about 800 miles away. That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
800 miles, not like present-day Lanka. Anyway, whatever it is, that's what the Valmiki Ramayana says. And so then somebody gets his wings back, and he flies away, jai jai. And that's Sampati. So, of course, Jatayu, who was his younger brother, we'll get back to that, Jatayu was a friend of Dasarath, and when he saw that Sita and Ram and Lakshmana were in the forest, he actually promised to protect them. Meantime, while he was protecting them, then Marich, Uncle Marich, he decided to take the form. He didn't decide. Ravana's idea was that he would take the form of a deer and lure Lord Ramchandra away. And then when this deer was killed, or the Marich was killed, this deer, Marich, cried out, Lakshman, Lakshman, Sita. And so Sita got very upset. You got to save your brother. And Lakshman said, no way. It was vow. I was given this promise that I would stay here and protect you, and that's Ram's order. That whole story, the Lakshman Rekha, is not there in the Valmiki Ramayana.
Yeah.
It's just not there. So, of course, that's something that was added later on, I guess. So anyway, so she somehow or other convinces him. She said, actually, in the Valmiki Ramayana, she says, actually, now I understand you were interested in me. He feels so insulted that his ego is just like hurt, and he decides to go after Ram. And then what happens is that your friend Ravan, he takes the form of a sage, and is able to lure Sita away from the cottage and kidnaps Sita Devi. So see, he puts her on this chariot that in the Valmiki Ramayana is described as asses with human heads. I don't know what it says in the Tulsidas Ramayana, but the Valmiki Ramayana
It doesn't describe
describe the chariot. So there's asses means like donkeys with human heads on them, really ugly. And she's screaming and screaming and screaming, Ram, Ram. So Jatayu hears this. He flies up in the air. Jatayu hears this, and Jatayu challenges him. And for a while, it appears that Jatayu is going to be able to defeat him. But then Ravan pulls out his Chandrahas. You know what the Chandrahas is?
The
sword.
Yeah.
Like a super sharp sword that can cut anything. And he cuts Jatayu's wing off, and Jatayu flies to the ground. And Jatayu's lying there in the ground. But in the meantime, he's actually destroyed. This is something in the Valmiki Ramayana. I don't believe it's in Tulsidas Ramayana. In the meantime, Ravana's chariot is destroyed. So how does Ravan carry Sita back? Does anyone know? He calls for an airplane. No, he doesn't call for an airplane. He carries her on his own strength back to Lanka. Meantime, when she's going back to Lanka, of course, she drops her jewels off on Mount Rishimukh, and then the monkeys see the jewels. But so in the meantime, Jatayu is lying there in the ground. He's not dead yet. And Ram comes back, Ram and Lakshman come back, and they discover Sita's not there. And Ram is, of course, really upset. Particular juncture in the Valmiki Ramayana, he says he's ready to destroy the whole earth unless Sita is brought back to him. But in any case, so they start looking, and they see a trail of blood. And they come across Jatayu's body, and they think Jatayu is a Rakshasa. But then they actually see that Jatayu, and Jatayu is also chanting Ram, Ram, Ram Nam. So they see Jatayu, and Jatayu reveals to them what happens. And he says that they headed basically towards the south, and then he leaves his body. He also says it's Ravan. So, anyway, so he indicates what has happened, and Ram and Lakshman, they start to head towards the south, and that's the beginning of their journey to find Sita Devi. So that's another point. So in any case, so Jatayu, is that the end of the story of Jatayu? Yeah, that's the end of the story of Jatayu. So Jatayu passes away chanting the name of Ram. Next personality, after J, is K. Kaikeyi. So, of course, she's the youngest queen. And as we mentioned before, Dasarath, he always wanted to have a son. He couldn't have a son, so he kept marrying different ladies. And Kaikeyi was renowned as I mentioned this before, she was a ferocious Kshatriya lady. And she was able to protect her husband Dasarath, because Dasarath was fighting with demons or something like that. And he was basically knocked unconscious. And she took him off the battlefield and brought him back to life, or back to consciousness. Dasarath was so pleased with her that he said, whatever you want, any benedictions you want, I'll give you. Also, when she got married, right before she got married, Dasarath was made to promise by Kaikeyi's father. It's the province of Kaikeya was where she was born. he was made to promise that her son would become the next king. So Dasratha had that promise. So later on, Kaikeyi, of course, came back as the queen. And we know that when Dasratha wanted to enthrone Ram, Kaikeyi interfered because she was actually influenced by Manthara. Manthara, of course, was the nursemaid. I guess we'll get to Manthara in a little while. So, but anyway, we're covering Manthara at the same time. She's the nursemaid of Bharat. And, whoops, this thing went blank. So she was the nursemaid of Bharat and very attached to Bharat and very protective of Bharat. And Manthara, I don't know if you could say she had bad intentions. She was just misled. Misled in the sense that her whole mood was protecting Bharat.
Okay.
And therefore she didn't trust Lord Ramchandra because, as we mentioned before, in those days sometimes brothers would kill brothers or imprison brothers or kill their mother or kill their father in order to take over the kingdom, like you see with Aurangzeb. He did that with his brothers and imprisoned his poor father, who was madly in love. And he imprisoned his father in such a way that the father was simply able to see from his prison cell the Taj Mahal. Did you know that? It's like rubbing salt in the wound. Yeah, so here's your Taj Mahal. And you can see it from your prison cell. Anyway, and the father died in such a condition like that. So, anyway, Kaikeyi was instrumental. Bharat, of course, at one point rejected Kaikeyi, but Lord Ramchandra was so merciful, Patita Pavana Sita Ram, Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram, that Ram convinced Bharat to actually accept his mother back. Although he never did accept her back until 14 years of the exile was over. I mean, he really accepted her back externally, but he really had this resentment towards her for a long period of time. And then even, well, there's an interesting story in the Ramayana that I remember. Even when, at the end when Ravana was killed, and actually the demigods appeared to celebrate, and also Dasratha appeared at that particular point. Then Ram asked the benediction from Dasarath that he would again accept Kaikeyi as his wife. Do you remember that? It's really interesting. Because Ram, he did not consider anyone to be his enemy, not even Ravan. Although he carried out his duty, he never had real animosity towards anyone. It's interesting. So therefore he prayed to his father, who came from the heavenly planets or whatever, that Kaikeyi would again be accepted as his wife. And of course, in the Vedic system, it's considered that the wife, when she dies, she joins the husband. That's quite interesting. In the heavenly planets. Yeah, it's considered like that. Like you see, Kunti and Madri, that Pandu died because of his attraction to Madri. And Kunti and Madri decided, of course, Kunti stayed in the world to take care of the sons, but it was decided that Madri was, in one sense, the cause of death of Pandu. And basically, she should go to join Pandu, and that's what the sati rite was all about. That the wife would join the husband. Nowadays, of course, the sati rite is illegal because it came to the point in India that the wife was forced to enter into the fire. They would actually throw the lady into the fire when the husband died. But in those days, not only did the wife go to join the husband, but the wife could not consider living without the presence of the husband. That was so much devotion, isn't it? And even today, when you find some rare couples where the wife really likes the husband, rare, or the husband loves the wife, it's rare. So then you find that the person, the partner dies after her or his partner dies, just out of grief, sometimes within a week, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. But that is a rare occasion. Generally, they're all fighting over the will, isn't it? Generally, that's the case. Anyway, that's Kaikeyi. And Kausalya is, of course, the queen of Dashrath and Lord Ram's mother. I'm trying to think about any other information I have about her. That's about it. And, wow, here's one you don't know. Kevat. You know him?
Yeah.
Oh, God. And so, for the fee of taking Ram across the river, he wanted to wash Ram's feet. And there's also some story that he didn't want Ram to touch the boat with his feet or something like that because the boat would turn into a lady or something like that. Anyway, because what happened before with the Halya. So anyway, so he's famous.
But there's another story about Keva that in his previous life he was like a turtle who wanted to touch the feet of...
That's not there in the Valmiki Ramayana.
Okay.
I don't know. That story I don't know anything about. Next person is Kar. So he's Kar and Dushan. You know, we can cover both of them at the same time. They were the two brothers of Ravana, and they were sent to the forest to actually put Janmastan to protect the boundaries of what Ravana considered to be his kingdom, to keep the Aryans from coming into his kingdom. So they were sent there. Of course, Surpanaka also stayed there with them. And the reason Surpanaka stayed with them is that Ravana wanted to send her away because Ravana had killed her husband. And Karandushan got killed by Ram in a very interesting way. I mean, actually, we can tell the story real quickly. That after Surpanaka had her nose job, I guess she needed to have a smaller nose. After Surpanaka had her nose out, she went back to Karandusha, and she complained, look what happened to your sister. So you got to attack. And so, first of all, they sent 14 giants. And these 14 giants were killed by Ram, of course. And then they sent 14,000 Rakshasas. And Ram used his bewilderment weapon on them. So each of the Rakshasas, or tremendous monsters, thought that they were fighting Ram, but they were actually fighting each other, and they killed each other off. And then Karandushan came, and Ram killed them both. And then Surpanaka went back to see Ravana and complain about the whole thing. So that's that's Kar. And the next one, I think none of you know, Kumbhakarna. And Kumbhakarna, they were, of course, at the same time, they were like 3 brothers and 1 sister born to Kekasi. One after the other, not exactly at the same time. Because Ravana was the older brother, and then you had Kumbhakarna and Vibhishan, and then Surpanaka. So, but all of them were performing austerities to Lord Brahma to get some sort of benediction. So finally, of course, Ravana's austerity was he kept cutting his heads off and offering them. And, of course, the heads grew back, obviously. And so Lord Brahma was asked by Ravana, what do you want? Ravana said, I want to become immortal. And Lord Brahma said, that's not possible. I can't make anyone immortal because I myself am not immortal. So therefore, ask for another benediction. And generally, the demons ask for benediction in such a way they think they've tricked Lord Brahma or tricked Lord Shiva. they say, like Hiranyakashipu, he said, not in the daytime, not in the nighttime, not inside, not outside, not by weapon, not by man, not by beast. So he thought, I tricked Lord Brahma. So Ravan pretty much covered everything except for human beings and monkeys. And so he thought, human beings, they're just puny, just like I would never think an ant is going to kill me. So I would ask for that sort of benediction. Please, Lord Brahma, let me not die unless I'm killed by an ant. That's ridiculous. Because I wouldn't consider there are ants that can kill people. Did you know that? In Brazil, there's these army ants. They come through a village and they eat every animal in their path. It's like devour them. Yeah. And even in America, we have these things called fire ants. They can kill someone. You ever heard of them? You step on them and they swarm on your leg and they poison you and they can kill you. So he asked for that particular benediction, and Lord Brahma said, you can have it. And as far as Kumbhakarna, you know the story, that Kumbhakarna, he had a voracious appetite. And in the Valmiki Ramayana, it describes that he used to eat so much there wasn't anything left over for anyone else. So, really a glutton. And so they had to figure a way to just to keep him out of the picture. So he wanted to ask for Indra's throne. So they called for Saraswati, the goddess of learning, just to interfere with his talking. And he said, instead of Indra's throne, he said the throne of Nidra, throne of sleep. So he was actually given benediction or curse, whatever, that he would sleep always. And then Ravan interceded. He said to Lord Brahma, how can you do this to him? He's your created being, he's your son. How can you just condemn him to eternal sleep? And Lord Brahma said, okay, he can wake up every 6 months. And if he's woken up prematurely, then he can be killed at that point. So the actual way that he would die was predicted. The way Ravana would die was actually predicted too, because he left out human beings. So that was actually predicted. Actually, when Lord Brahma gives benedictions, it actually predicts how the demon's going to die. There were two demons, this is a story from the Mahabharata, Sunda and Upasunda, who approached Lord Brahma, and they got the benediction. They could not die except by the hands of each other. The story of the Mahabharata. And so they were thinking, never happens, never will happen. Meantime, Lord Brahma hatched a plan to force them to fight with each other. And that plan was he would create, and Vishwakarma actually would create the most beautiful girl imaginable. And so the Mahabharata actually describes how they took the different parts of bodies, the most beautiful nose, the most beautiful ears, the most beautiful eyes, the most beautiful hair, most beautiful whatever. And they combined it all together, and the girl was called Tilotama, the topmost sesame girl. And she circumambulated the demigods before she went on her mission. And it's described some of them grew extra eyes in the back of their body and everything, like just to see her. Anyway, or extra heads to see her. And she went on her mission. It happened that Sunda and Upasunda were actually drunk. So she went before them and they fought each other and killed each other. Anyway, so that happened with Ravan, it happened with Kumbhakarna. So as far as Vibhishan, he just asked for basically devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Lord Brahma said, I give you eternal life. Because when one has devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one never dies. Of course, you have to leave the body, but basically, you just continue with your same devotion life after life, or going back to home, back to Godhead. And Surpanaka, she wanted the benediction of being able, because she was quite an ugly girl, she wanted the benediction of being able to change her form at will. And that's why when she first appeared before Ram, Lakshmana, and Sita, she appeared as like a quite attractive girl. So that was the benediction of the three of them. Anyway, so that's Kumbhakarna. Kumbhakarna. Okay. Next, of course, is Kush, who's one of the two sons of Ram and Sita. Love and Kush. We don't need to say any more about that. Of course, they were taken care of in the ashram of Valmiki Muni. They accepted Valmiki Muni as their guru, and they learned the Ramayana from Valmiki Muni. They learned it by heart, and eventually, at one point, they entered into Ayodhya and they were able to recite the Ramayana up to the point where Ram exiled Sita Devi to Ram. And they were actually quite angry at Ram for doing what he did. At that point, they didn't know that their mother, who I think they called her Vandevi or something, their mother, Sita, was actually Sita, because she wanted to hide the fact from everybody that she was Sita. And the only person who knew in the ashram was Valmiki Muni. The other residents of the ashram were thinking, who's this lady? Is she actually chaste, or is she not chaste? What is she doing in the ashram? Why did Valmiki Muni accept her? So they had some doubts about her. So anyway, so Lav and Kush, they were very angry at Ram for having exiled Sita Devi, even though they didn't know that Sita Devi was their mother. And as a result, when Ram sent the challenge horse out, like whenever they did a Rajasuya Ashrameda, especially Ashrameda, there was a challenge horse, and it said on it, anyone who interferes with the progress of this horse has to fight. And the horse was actually accompanied by a group of soldiers from the kingdom. And so, Kaushalya, the king of Kaushalya, they were going around. And so basically they were unimpeded by everyone except for Lav and Kush. And because Lav and Kush were the sons of Ram, they had great power. And also they were empowered by their Guru Maharaj. So they were able to stop the challenge horse and actually defeat the soldiers. And there's a description they were able to defeat, Hanuman. They were able to capture Hanuman, not make him unconscious. But they were able to capture Hanuman. There's some description they chanted so nicely in Ramayana, they enamored Hanuman while they were chanting the Ramayana. But they were able to basically stop the other brothers, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrugna. And Ram eventually had to come out to challenge them, and Valmiki Muni came out and said, no, don't fight with your father. And they said, no, he's our father. So in this way, they realized that Ram was their father, and Sita was their mother. So that's Lav and Kush, and eventually they took over the kingdom. So, Kush. Next one is Lakshman. I think you all know who Lakshman, the brother of Ram. We don't need to discuss that in depth right now. And Love, that's the other son. Then there's Mandavi. Who's Mandavi? Bhart's wife. Okay. And she was also King Janaka's daughter. Then there's your favorite personality, Manthara. So she's the maidservant of Kaikeyi, and we mentioned before she was actually the nurse of Bharat. And she was the one who contaminated the mind of Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi first was very enthusiastic about Ram being enthroned because she considered Ram to be just like her son. She didn't distinguish between Bharat and Ram at all. She just thought, this is fantastic. But Kaikeyi just poisoned her mind. And of course, Kaikeyi eventually went to the anger room in the palace. We didn't tell this story anyway. We can tell it now. So that in every palace, the ladies had a room just to get angry in. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it's described that Satyabhama was in such a room. And Krishna just said, "You fool, get out of here." So Krishna was not influenced by, her anger, her crying, and everything like that. But Kaikeyi was in her angry room. And when Dasarath went to sort of celebrate the potential enthronement of Ram, he went to see Kaikeyi. So he went to a regular room. He says, "Where's Kaikeyi?" Because he was very attached to Kaikeyi. She was the youngest and most beautiful, of course, because the other ones were old. Like the story of Suniti and Suruchi. So he just wanted to actually celebrate with her. He said, "I want to see my dear Kaikeyi." So he goes, and Kaikeyi is in this anger room, and I've told this story before anyway. So she's crying, and she says, or he says, "What's wrong, dear?" And she says, "You'll never understand." And she keeps crying. And eventually, he says, "Whatever you want, I'll give you." And she says, "Really?" And he says, "Yes." And then he's trapped again. Not only trapped then, but trapped because he had promised her father the same thing, and also promised her that he would give in to whatever she wanted when she saved him during the battle. Okay. So, in any case, that's, okay. That's discussion of that. That's mantra. Next is actually one of my favorite persons. Actually, there's two ways to pronounce it. Moricha or Morich, who was actually the uncle of Ravan. And he was a great mystic. He could assume different forms, do so many things. So Marich has some history with Ram, even before he assumed the form of a golden deer. Marich and Subahu were harassing the fire sacrifice of Vishwamitra Muni. And Vishwamitra Muni, having taken a vow of, just being peaceful, not attacking, he had the power to kill any sort of demon he wanted to. But he had taken this promise during the sacrifice. He couldn't get angry. So he enlisted the help of Ram and Lakshman. Ram and Lakshman came, of course, after killing Tadaka and some other interesting occasions. They came and they basically killed Subahu, but Marich was sent into the ocean, just that 800 miles again, by Ram's arrow. He just flew into the ocean. And so he became quite scared. It's called PTSD. And quite scared of Ram. Later on, he sort of lost his fear. There's a description in the Valmiki Ramayana that he wanted to attack Ram again. So he and other Rakshasas took the form of these 8-legged beasts. You've heard this before? I did mention this. There's a ferocious beast in the forest, and they went to attack Ram and Lakshman and Sita, who was there at that particular point. And what Ram did is he started firing his arrows and killed the beast, but didn't kill Marich. So at that point, Marich decided to take sannyas. So, and it's described in the Valmiki Ramayana that at that point, whenever he heard even the syllable Ra, he would start shaking in anxiety. What to speak of Rama? So, just, oh my God. So then Ravan comes to him and says to him, "I got a mission for you." And he says, "Don't even think about it. You're going to get killed." And he describes what happened to him. And Ravan becomes dissuaded, or persuaded, but dissuaded from fighting. And so Ravan goes back and says, "Okay, it's not a good idea." But then this pretty girl, Surpanaka, actually convinces him by employing her tricks. I'm your sister. Your sister has been defiled. It's your duty. You're supposed to be fearless and everything like that. What kind of wimp are you? And eventually Ravan says, all right. And she actually even says that the whole reason I came upon Ram, Lakshmana, and Sita is I wanted to steal Sita for you. She's a big liar. So anyway, that's Marich. Meghnad is the next one. That means someone who cries like a cloud, like thunder. So he was born in that particular way. And he was also known as Indrajit. Indrajit means, and I described this story the other day, that the demigods were able to capture Ravan at one particular point, and Indrajit, or Meghnad, came and was able to rescue Ravan, bring him back, and capture Indra. And because he captured Indra, Lord Brahma had to come and save Indra. Indrajit, save Indra, that's right. And Indrajit also attacked Ram and Lakshman with his snake weapons at one particular juncture. And then there was the Shakti Shila weapon. And then that's why Hanuman came and brought the Mritu Sanjeevani back from the mountain to save Lakshman. Anyways, there's a whole story of what Indra did. Indra was eventually killed by Lakshman after his fire sacrifice was defiled by Hanuman, who passed urine on the fire sacrifice. And that's Indrajit, the son, the older son of Ravan. Okay, Indrajit. Then there's Jambavan. Actually, there's a lot of people here. We're almost finished. I'm not finished with the list, but finished with the time. So Jambavan is Chiranjiva. He's the son of Lord Brahma. And he exists as long as, basically, the universe exists. And he had witnessed many, many incarnations or appearances of Lord Ram, because Lord Ram appears in each and every day of Lord Brahma. So that's Jambavan. And so Jambavan is depicted sometimes as a bear, but Prabhupada said he's not a bear, he's the king of the bears. And his wife, his daughter, Jambavati, married Krishna later on in Dwapara Yuga. So, and Jambavan was able to remind Hanuman that he had that great power, and therefore Hanuman remembered his power and was able to cross the ocean and find Sita Devi. So Jambavan plays a very important part in the Ramayana, the Valmiki Ramayana. Then there's Janaka.
No, you did.
What?
You completed that. We are in
I
M.
said Jambavan.
No, we are in M. So Meghnad.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We got,
Yeah.
yeah, we in Jambavan. Yeah, skipping back here. Yeah. Sorry, I went back to the beginning. So Nal and Neil, they were sons of Vishwakarma, and they helped to create or make the bridge across the ocean. Then Ravan, of course, we all know who Ravan was. He's the 10-headed son, 10-headed person, the king of Lanka, and he was the one who abducted Sita Devi and brother Vibhishan and Surpanaka and father of Indrajit, and his wife's name was Mandodari. Okay, sorry. Sampati we already covered. Shatrughna, he is Ram's youngest brother.
Yeah.
There's Shabari. Shabari is actually a great devotee. She was, I think, the disciple of Matunga, the sage Matunga. And she was told after her guru went back to Godhead, to wait till Ram came. And Shabari means she came from a pig-eating caste, like the Shabaras. And so she waited and every day decorated the path as Ram and Sita were going to the south. I mean, Ram and Lakshmana were going to the south looking for Sita Devi and actually looking for Sugriva and the monkeys. She was the one who actually told them where the monkeys were in Mount Rishimukh. And Shabari offered Ram's this fruit, which she herself tasted. In other words, she offered him some berries, but she tasted every berry before she offered it to Ram, and Lakshman got very upset with her. This is very bad. You're not supposed to eat the offering before you offer it. And Ram said, no, she's doing it with devotion. So, famous personality. After she met Ram and showed them the way, she went back to home, back to Godhead, to join her guru. Next after that is Shatananda. Oh, nobody knows him. He's actually the son of Ahalya and Gautama Rishi. You didn't know that? He's the son of Ahalya and Gautama Rishi before Ahalya became cursed to become disincarnate, which we mentioned the other day. And the story is he's the head priest of Janaka's kingdom. Never heard of his name before?
No.
It's actually a famous person in the Ramayana. He's the head priest, actually guru of Mithila.
Okay.
Yeah, very important person. Next is Lord Shiva. I don't think we need to talk about him.
Yeah.
Next is Shravan Kumar. He was the young boy who was killed inadvertently by Dasarath. And he was taking care of his blind parents, and his blind parents, because Dasarath was using the Shabda weapon. Shabda weapon was able to fire an arrow by sound vibration. And he thought he heard a deer drinking. In fact, it was this boy. And he was taking water out of the river to give to his parents. And Dasarath killed him. And, of course, he was hit by the arrow. He was still alive, and he revealed to Dasarath, my blind parents are some distance away, and I'm bringing some water for them. And so then he died, and then Dasarath went to bring the blind parents. The blind parents were informed of what happened, and they got so angry at Dasarath, they cursed him as they left their bodies to die because he was feeling separation from his son, Ram. So they didn't know Ram's name at that time, but they died. He died, they died, and they cursed him in that particular way. So that's Shravan Kumar. Shrutkirti, who's anyone know?
Yeah,
Shatrugna's wife. Surpanaka, we already talked about. Sita, you know that. Sugriva, he was the king of the monkey tribe after his brother Bali was killed. And his brother Bali had actually taken his wife as well as his own wife. And then Sugriva, after he got back the kingdom because Lord Ram had killed his brother, he got drunk for 4 months in the rainy season. And basically, he forgot that he was supposed to help Ram.
Yeah.
So Lord Ram sends Lakshman to remind Sugriva, and Lakshman is really angry. So Lakshman comes in, and all the monkeys are afraid because Lakshman has his bow drawn and he's ready to fire arrows at Sugriva or kill Sugriva or something like that. And they don't know what to do. So then it's decided that Sugriva's wife, actually it's Bali's wife, who Sugriva was sleeping with, would come out and placate Lakshman. But she comes out, and it's described in the Valmiki Ramayana that she was drunk, and her eyes were rolling. But Lakshman was so dharmic, he would never hurt a woman. He put his bow down. And she sort of lied a little bit that Sugriva's already sent the monkeys out, and that so all the monkeys from all the 4 directions will come and join. And so Lakshman was placated, and of course, that's what happened. Okay. So, let's see. So next is Sumanta.
Yeah.
Anybody know who he is?
That's Prime Minister.
Prime Minister? Yes, and a servant and charioteer and everything like that. So Sumitra, the middle wife of Dasarath and mother of Lakshman, Shatrugna. And then Sunayana, mother of Sita, wife of Janaka. Shushain. So there's two different versions of the story with the Shushain, whether you're the Valmiki Ramayana or the Tulsidas Ramayana. Shushain was the physician who took the Mrityu Sanjeevani herbs and he saved Lakshman.
Right.
But in the Valmiki Ramayana, it says, no. In the Valmiki Ramayana, Shushain was also the physician in both places. But in the Valmiki Ramayana, it says that Shushain was actually part of the monkey army.
Oh.
In the Tulsidas Ramayana, it says that he was the Lankan physician,
Yeah.
and he was brought by Hanuman
Yeah.
to cure Lakshman. So you got that disparity between the two. Okay. And then another beautiful lady, Tataka. She was actually killed. She's the first demon that was killed by Ram in his pastimes. And she had this whole forest. She was a Rakshasi. And she was Maricha's mother. And so she had been a demigoddess before, and she was cursed to become a because she was very proud of her beauty. She was cursed to become a horrendous Rakshasi. Then Urmila, Lakshman's wife, who was told what?
Not to cry.
Not to cry for 14 years. And then we're almost finished, actually, with our list.
What about Shringi Rishi and Romapad?
They're not mentioned in this list.
Oh, right.
I'm sure there's more people that are not mentioned. Yeah, that's right. Rishi Shringa, not Shringi Rishi. So then there's Bali, and he was the one who was actually, in one Ramayana it says he was the cousin of Sugriva, and another one it says he was the brother of Sugriva. There's a little bit of difference. But in any case, he occupied Kishkinda because he was attacking this demon, and Sugriva thought he had died and sealed the cave. And then when Bali came out, he was really angry at Sugriva and kicked him out of the kingdom and took Sugriva's wife away from him. Then you have Valmiki, of course, the author of the Ramayana. We told the story already about him. And then, there's Manara means monkey. Vashishta Muni, there's a whole story about Vashishta Muni and Visramita Muni, which we're not going to tell right now. There's Vibhishan, who's Ravana's brother, who left Ravan to join Ram and help Ram in his fight with Ravan, because he was always pious and always chanting the holy name. And Hanuman encountered him when he was looking for Sita Devi, because he was flying all over Lanka, and then he heard Ram, 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 Ram. He said, "Who's doing that here? There's demons here." So he lands there and he sees Vibhishan, and they embrace each other. And Vibhishan says she's in the Ashok garden, and Hanuman finds Sita Devi. So that's Vibhishan. Vishnu, you all know. Visramita, that's a long story how Visramita achieved the Brahminical status, so we're not going to tell that story. So, oh my God, any questions or comments? We finished with every place. And I'm just going to read it with every person. I'm just going to read the different places and not describe them, just see if everybody knows. Ayodhya, everybody knows. Ashokvan, what's that? That's where Sita was kept. Chitrakoot, where they first went. Dandakaranya, which is where they ended up, and Sita was kidnapped from Dandakaranya. Godavari, that's a river which Ram crossed to reach Panchavati. Mount Kailas, anyway, that's where Lord Shiva lives. Kishkinda, Sugriva, the kingdom ruled by Sugriva. It's actually a whole city. Koshala, you know what that is? Well, Ayodhya is the capital of Koshala. It's the province, it's a whole province. But Ayodhya is the capital. It's the whole kingdom ruled by Dasarath. Mithila, of course you mentioned that before, Janaka's kingdom, Lanka, I think you know where that is. Panchavati,
That's where Sita was kidnapped.
yeah, that's the forest. Even Prayag is mentioned here. Anyway, you know what Prayag is. Sarayu,
Yeah.
and that's the river upon which Ayodhya is situated. So, okay, that's it for today. Any questions or comments?
Like the Raghuvanshis, they would take their vow so seriously. So if I was wondering if Dashrath promised Keikai's father that he would make his son the king.
Yeah.
Did he forget when he was?
He must have forgotten.
Oh, okay.
He must have forgotten the promise.
Maybe we were attached to
And also, there's another way of looking at it. Because Kaikeyi considered Ram her son, he could have thought like that. I mean, I don't know. It's not described anywhere in the Ramayana or in the books I've read. But there's a possibility because Kaikeyi, all the mothers, Kausaya, Subhitra, Kaikeyi, they all loved all the sons as theirs. There wasn't this animosity between them like you see in Suruchi and Suniti. They actually were great saints. So there's another way to look at it. Your son, Ram's my son, it's okay. Anyway, or he forgot, one of the two options you get. So any other questions or comments?
Why does Ram always want to test Sita Mata?
He doesn't want to test Sita Devi. But he's trying to uphold the position of king, the king.
Knowingly that, he knew that.
He knew, but the citizens didn't know. Of course he knew, he's God, he knows everything. However, the citizens would not have trusted her. And they would have thought that he's accepting her back sentimentally. They would have distrusted him. In those days, anyway, the women were always protected. They didn't drive their own cars or anything like that. Like the story that we told about Devahuti. Remember? Devahuti was not even allowed out of the palace. She had to just play tennis on the roof of the palace, and that's where that Gandharva fell off of his airplane when he saw her. I mean, they were protected in that way, it's somehow or other. And also Usha, the story of Usha? Usha and Banasura story, and
No, Krishna.
and Aniruddha?
Yeah.
You don't know the story?
No.
Okay. So Usha was protected by Banasura. I mean, no man other than, her relatives ever saw her. So, anyway, it was considered low class for a woman to be independent. Actually, Prabhupada even said when he was young, his mother wouldn't go anywhere unless she was carried in a palanquin by 4 servants. So we should do that today too. Because anyway, I'm not going to comment on it so much, but in those days, it's like that. Ladies were not, let's say, they were not unprotected. Let's use a better expression.
They were protected.
It's not discrimination against the ladies or anything like that, but they were not unprotected. They were always protected by their husband, by their son, right? Or by their father. That was just the system. Anyway, I know the ladies do not like that nowadays. Anyway, so, go ahead, Linda.
Gurudev, I was listening to Srila Prabhupada's lecture and he said that women are less intelligent compared to men. Did he mean in context to the time that he was giving lecture, that was in 1970s, because women did not get that?
Okay, here we go. Maybe we'll just shut down Zoom right now. So, I won't explain what she asked about. No, she asked about, Prabhupada said, the less intelligent thing. I'll explain that. Maybe Krishna will make me choke enough so I can't speak. Well, it's not just contextual with that particular time, place, and circumstance, because we've all experienced, hopefully you'll let me continue, you all experienced that women generally, this is general, have a lot of emotions. Like we talked the other day about how at the crematorium, traditionally women were not allowed. The reason is they would do something,
Right.
I know, that would really cause the soul to get upset that was trying to go back to the spiritual world or go on to his next life. They would start crying. And crying is all right. We have no problem with crying. But not in front of me. But we have no problem with someone crying because it's natural expression. I mean, I've cried before when Prabhupada left the planet. But it's a time when you don't want crying to be there. You want the chanting of the holy name at that particular point. So ladies definitely have more emotions. And physiologically, and you're a nurse, you know this, there's interconnections between both halves of the brain. You know that? What is the name of that part of the brain? The corpus callosum, and whatever it is, that connects both parts of the brain. And men don't have as many connections. They tend to be rather hard-hearted. Anyway, so, see, it's a bad quality of men that I'm talking about right now. The good women are better because they have more connections, more brain substance than men. So, you know, there's a left-hand side of the brain and a right-hand side of the brain, right? Left-hand side is the logical side. Mathematics. Right-hand side, emotional. You know, feelings and everything like that. So anyway, so it's more artistic, emotional, and everything like that. So when you got more connections, the right-hand side of the brain can overwhelm the left-hand side of the brain. It's physiological fact. So it's not that women are less intelligent in terms of ability, in terms of, let's say, understanding things, in terms of writing skills, memorization skills. In fact, the connection between the two halves of the brain enable the women to actually have better memories than men. You know, good memory is actually one of the qualities of women. I mean, there's some men who have perfect memories too. But in any case, you got the emotions overwhelming the discrimination sometimes, the hard-heartedness of the men. And therefore, see if everyone's watching. Oh my God, a lot of people. So therefore, you know, the discrimination becomes overwhelmed at a particular juncture. So what intelligence, Prabhupada says, the ability to discriminate. That's how Prabhupada defines intelligence. So it's not defined the same way we would in the Western world by Prabhupada. So therefore, that's why women are protected, because they can be cheated very easily. Like I've seen practically, in many cases where there's young girls and they're not protected properly, men actually cheat them in a very easy way. I mean, it's not difficult. You know, young man would say to a girl, "You got very pretty eyes." And the girl goes, she's not going to disagree with him, right? She's going to go, "Oh, he loves me." And a young girl is always looking for someone to protect her, right? And to maintain her to pay the bills. Instead, she doesn't realize she's going to have to go to work later on and have a job of her own. The modern world, isn't it? But, that's the emotional state of a lady. I mean, I've seen it. It's not just, even with modern ladies, it's like that. You want to be protected. You want to be cherished. But if someone comes to me and says, I want to protect you, I say, get what out of you. Even like I get upset if someone wants to hold an umbrella over my head if it's raining. That's a male psychology. I said, I can take care of myself. Leave me alone. Don't I say that sometimes?
Yeah.
To Krishna Chandra.
Yeah.
But I'm sure his wife never says that.
But he
Doesn't
doesn't
know-
do that.
He doesn't- See? I mean, you hear the tone of voice, she's resentful. With me, I get angry because of one thing, and she gets angry because of the opposite. He never does that. And I'll say, he always does it. Taking my socks off. I can cook for myself. Leave me alone. Anyway, so there's a difference. So that difference indicates that, general. I mean, I'm generalizing, which probably was generalizing too, that women can be taken advantage of a lot more easily. And that's means, anyway, it's a less intelligent thing. So they have to be, Prabhupada emphasized that, devotees, people don't understand why Prabhupada emphasized that, because he was very concerned. Vedic culture means to protect women, old people too, We need protection. Not me. But old people, women, children need to be protected. Cows need to be protected. See, these are the duty of a king, the duty of a husband, the duty of a father, to protect from being taken advantage of, cheated, abused, everything like that. And men naturally have the psychology, good men have the psychology of being a protector. Like, for example, my psychology, if I hear that someone is being abused, I want to kill the person who's abusing them. It's a natural response.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one case where a husband was abusing his wife, and anyway, what happened is they left the phone on. She called me up, my husband is doing this to me, and she put the phone down, and I heard everything going on. So I put the guy in jail. And I was happy he was in jail. I wasn't sentimental about it. I said, go to jail. And then you have the story in the Mahabharata, how Draupadi is very much sentimental about Ashwatthama. You have Krishna telling Bhimsena and Arjuna, you kill the guy. And Draupadi is just saying, no, he's the son of a Brahmin, our spiritual master. His mother will be left without anybody. So you have a difference in mentality. I'm not saying it was right to kill the guy because a Brahmin is not supposed to be killed, or the son of a Brahmin, Bandhu is not supposed to be killed. And finally, Arjuna was able to make a compromise by sort of killing him by taking the jewel out of his head and throwing, sending him in exile. But that's the whole story there. So Prabhupada, in that story, Prabhupada actually talks about that sentimentality. Now, at the same time, women are much more compassionate, they're more caring. in general, there's exceptions. I mean, sometimes you find women who get heavier than when women. Oh, you got me started. Anyway, when women want to take the position of men, they are worse men than men are.
Mm.
Like when they become prime minister or something.
Yeah, that's been
Like Margaret Thatcher. I don't know if you remember her. She was the prime minister of the UK for a while, and they used to call her the Iron Lady. You know about that? You remember that? Those of you who are older will remember that. Or Indira Gandhi. I mean, Indira Gandhi wanted to solve the population problem, the increase of the population problem, by sending her soldiers out and basically turning everyone to a eunuch. Not everyone. They even went to the sadhus in Vrindavan and castrated them. You didn't know that. Prabhupada talks about that. So sometimes the ladies, when they try to emulate the men, they actually become worse than the men. But anyway, these are all generalizations. You will find women sometimes who have more discrimination than the men, and you'll find men who are overly sentimental who don't have discrimination. Does that answer the question? But the main thing is the ladies should be protected. That's the main thing. That's why in the Vedic system you don't have women sannyasis. Because can you imagine a lady going into the forest and I was just reading a story. Oh yeah. How there's men who would just like take advantage of ladies in the forest and just like that. Anyway. It's creates a better society, and also ladies are better caregivers in general of children. All right. Did I get myself in trouble yet? No.
No, that's it.
Okay. What's that? It's time. Actually, it's too late.
Like Mataji wants to know if there are any women sannyasi.
Yes.
No, thank God. But women can be renounced in the sense, when their husband passes away. But Prabhupada wanted them to be protected either by the society, the Hare Krishna Society. I mean, like my god sister Malati. I mean, obviously she was married to Shyama Sundar before, and she's protected by so many nice devotees like that. And of course, in the society, we're all protective of the ladies in our society. The men should actually take that move, not overly protective. On the other hand, the extreme is where the men will try to control the women. It's not like that. The women are given their own service, their own service to do. And they're given the ability to associate with the other women, and they're given the ability to take responsibility. I mean, some of our best temple presidents are women in the movement. Some of the very best temple presidents. In North Carolina, our temple president, first-class temple president, she's probably watching. Let's see. Oh my God. No, JKL. No, she's not watching. Anyway. And her son is watching. Anyways, women are able to do such nice service. There's no problem. And certainly they take care of the deities a lot better than most men. Most men. I mean, I remember when we first installed the deities in North Carolina, and I was dressing the deities, I got kicked off the altar by the ladies. Because they were very upset with the way I was dressing the deities. Very flamboyant, and I dressed Radha and Krishna like there was wind blowing through the altar. So I had all their clothes like going to one side like that. And I would take all the trees from the forest and put it on the altar. So the poor lady who had to take care of the night dressing had to take away the whole forest from the altar. I put birds all over the altar. I was very creative. but the ladies didn't like that. So I accepted that's their domain, you know. So, okay, you can do better than me. Don't worry, I'm not going on the altar again. So, okay, I think we had enough. It's time, actually too late. Time for Prasadam. All glories to Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada, ki jai.
Bir Krishna Goswami Maharaj ki.